Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Jeff Patterson. He is a meditation expert and author and founder of the Yielding Warrior program. Welcome to the show, Jeff.
Hey, thank you for having me.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Jeff. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We will be talking about the transformative power of meditation. With Jeff, we'll understand all this. But before that, let's understand a bit about Jeff's journey. If you can share a bit about your background, Jeff, a bit about your journey so that people can know more about who you are and also learn directly from you through your journey.
Yes, I've been running a martial arts and meditation center here in Portland, Oregon now for about 30 years. I started doing the practice about 36 years ago, and it's been a major part of my life. I've had about 26,000 students come through the academy, and it's been a major part of my life as well. I've seen hundreds of students that have come in and had amazing results from adopting meditation into their life and using these strategies to help with various things across the board, from stress and anxiety to improving performance in business and on the field if they're an athlete, and just so many different applications within the meditative practice. I kind of break down the meditative arts into 5 categories. We have more of the athletic or the combative style of practice, the therapeutic side of the practice, the medical side, the philosophical side, and then also the meditative or spiritual side. And as you're building an evolving life practice with the meditative arts, you can focus on any one or a couple of those areas if that's what you're looking to do.
Right, Jeff. So, to understand this better, you talk about the yielding warrior. Now, you have a program also on that. So, what is this? People talk about fighting back. Here, you are talking about the yielding warrior. When you talk of warrior, there is nothing called yielding here. So, I want to understand this for the audience about the yielding warrior. It looks like to be a very good concept, and it will be interesting to learn this.
Yes, so my most recent book is called The Yielding Warrior, and it talks about a philosophical concept that's used in the meditative and the martial arts called yielding. And I've broken down yielding into 3 different categories. We have physical yielding, mental yielding, and emotional yielding. And physical yielding is the easiest one to understand. It's the idea that I push you, you push me, whoever's the bigger, stronger person with the most leverage eventually is going to push the other person over. But with yielding, instead of us trying to see who the bigger meathead is, when you push me, I get out of the way of that force. And now I can respond with less effort. So I'm not trying to butt heads with you and see if I'm bigger and stronger than you. And it's obvious how this is beneficial in athletics or martial arts, because there's many times when you come up against an athlete who's bigger and stronger than you, and if you try to overpower them, they're going to win. And so learning how to do this is essential for being effective in those kinds of scenarios. Now, in order to be good at physical yielding, a lot of things have to come into play. You need to be well rooted. The lower part of your body needs to be strong and flexible so you can change your central equilibrium without getting tight. The body has to be relaxed, the breath has to be calm, and the mind has to be present. Now, while this may take a lifetime to master these skills, from day one, by adopting a meditation practice, we start to improve our awareness and see these things more clearly in everything we do inside of ourselves. Once we have developed this skill and this awareness and these insights, now it's where it starts to become very interesting, because not only do we see these things inside of ourselves, but we also start to see them more clearly in other people. And this is where we move into what I call mental yielding. And mental yielding is, say, for example, you and I are having a conversation, and I
Right.
see something that unsettles you, and I pick up on it right from the first sign of imbalance. It's a lot easier for me to adjust the conversation and keep us in a happy place than if I'm not paying attention to that. And pretty soon I'm so far off track, you want to slap me upside the head. And so learning how to use yielding in all of our interactions is extremely powerful. One, you're just being more considerate, which is something we could all do more of anyway. And two, it allows you to be strategic and guide conversations to a positive outcome with the least amount of resistance. Now, this is great in relationships, it's good in business, it's good in sales, it's good in negotiations. And there's so many different ways that we can apply this concept. Then we move into what I call emotional yielding. And emotional yielding is very much like mental yielding, but it's with your own interpersonal conflicts. So you think about oftentimes something will happen to us and we'll respond and we'll go down this path. And we might get an hour, a day, a week down that road and realize maybe that wasn't the best choice. But by adapting these meditative practices into our life, a lot of times we're able to step back when these things happen and really get a more clear vision of what's going on and make a more educated choice that's going to save us a lot of heartache on the other side. And, I've been running this academy here for 30 years, and I've been explaining this idea of yielding for years. And one of the most common things that I'll hear people say is, yielding makes a lot of sense. In fact, I do that all the time. And while I would agree, I think everybody does some degree of yielding all the time. It's kind of like if you or I were to walk into a crime scene with a detective who's been on the job for 30 years, I guarantee you he would see things about the timeline and the series of events that I know at least I would have no clue of. And that's kind of one of the things that the meditative arts does for us is it helps us see things inside of ourselves and inside of other people that I really believe that most people will never have any clue of unless they have some kind of a meditation practice in their life.
Absolutely. Absolutely well explained, Jeff. Now let's understand this a bit. You talked about physical yielding, mental yielding, and emotional yielding. Now, in physical yielding or any of the yieldings that we are talking about, how do we make that difference about something, chickening out and go or giving way to something else? How does that serve the purpose for a common person? Help us understand this part a bit, that they feel like a winner and not like a loser.
Yes, so yielding isn't about giving up and being submissive. Yielding is repositioning yourself for the most strategic direction to get to what you want. Yielding is used in so many different things in life. And, in athletics, if somebody's running down the field, you're not going to run away from them and give up. You've got to figure out how to tackle that person if you're playing football. And now if the guy running down the field is 350 pounds and you're 180 pounds, you don't want to butt heads with them. They're going to run right over you. But if you get them where they're weak at an angle where they have the least amount of power or the least amount of balance, you can take that person down. And that's the idea of yielding, whether it's physical yielding or even mental yielding. If we're having a conversation and we're having an argument, if I just butt heads with you and I say, no, you're wrong, and I argue with you, maybe I might win that conversation or that argument, but you're going to leave feeling frustrated and thinking, oh man, that guy's kind of a jerk. But if instead I understand your point of view and I guide you into seeing my point of view as well, and I leave that conversation with you feeling good, and we're both at a mutual understanding, it's a lot more beneficial to both of us. And, one of my longtime meditation teachers, he always used to say that, you know, with yielding, you can make your enemies your friends. And without yielding, oftentimes you make your friends your enemy. And so it's a really powerful concept and how it can be used in so many different ways.
Right, right, Jeff. I understand that point. Let's understand this. Then, amongst this, where does meditation come in? How should we, or how do you bring meditation into the concept of the yielding warrior?
Yeah. So with the meditative arts, they help you be more in tune with your physical awareness, your mental awareness, and your emotional awareness. And, a lot of times I'll hear people say, oh, I've tried meditation and it just didn't work for me. I couldn't quiet my mind. And, somewhere along the way, people got this misconception that in order to meditate, you have to be in this state of nirvana and nothing bothers you. But I've been training in the meditative arts now for almost 36 years, and I've trained around the world with teachers from all over the place. And I've met some really amazing meditation practitioners in my career. And I have never once met anybody that doesn't get distracted. We all get distracted, and that's just part of life. But with meditation, it allows us to recognize these distractions at the first sign of imbalance and have the tools by being able to regulate our posture and our breath and our alignment and bring this unbalance back to center to find that focus. And by cultivating these practices that help us stay more in tune with our physical, mental, and emotional well being, we're able to make these adjustments before things get too far down a negative path. And it's one thing to change a conversation at the first sign of imbalance, but after you guys are already yelling at each other, it's very difficult to turn that around and bring it to a peaceful place. And so having that sensitivity and that awareness by practicing the meditative arts helps us see these things more clearly and gives us more control to guide things before they get too far off track.
Right, right, Jeff. Now you talk about various types of meditation, ritual, active, and philosophical. Help us understand these three different types, and also how would I know which one uh, is the best for me?
Yes, so ritual, active, and philosophical practices are part of the foundation of any meditation practice. And so a ritual practice is when you set time aside every day and do a little bit of your practice. And it could be a sitting meditation, it could be a movement practice like a Tai Chi form or yoga or a Qigong set. There's a lot of different things you could use for that. Active practices are things that you can do when you're walking down the street or standing in line at the grocery store. And they're ways for us to incorporate this idea of this awareness training and this mindfulness training in everything we do all day and in all of our activities, because meditation's meant to be a way of life and not a hobby that we do once in a while. And so by having these active practices, they can help us maintain balance throughout the day and improve our awareness. So when we get to our ritual practice, it continues to grow and get deeper and deeper. And then philosophical practices can be either ritual based or active based. And so we integrate those into our ritual and active practices.
Right, right, Jeff. So, in terms of how do I know which one is good, and how often should I meditate? Is it a fixed time every day? Is it time duration every day? How does that work best?
So that's a different question for, or a different answer for different people, depending on what you want to get out of it. For new students coming to the practice, I always tell them that a good place to start is if you could do a 20-minute ritual practice a day and then integrate some of these active practices every 60 to 90 minutes throughout the day. And those active practices, they don't need to be a huge time investment. It could be done in 60 seconds, it could be done in 2 minutes, but we integrate those into our day-to-day activities. And with that level of commitment, if you do that every day for the next year, I've seen thousands of students come through the academy, and of the students that listen to this advice and they do their 20-minute a day ritual and integrate these active practices into their life, I would be willing to bet that 95 to 98% of those people will do the meditative practices for the rest of their life because they'll see so many benefits by adopting these practices. Now, the ones that quit are the ones that don't get through that beginning stage and don't really change that mindset. And they think of it more as like a chore or something that they have to do every day. But when you start to reap all the benefits by incorporating the meditative arts in your life, you get to the point where you look forward to it. And it's not something that you have to do, it's something that you get to do. And when you change your mindset like that, it's something that you'll never let slide.
Right, right, Jeff. Now let's learn a bit from your book. You've written two books, many other videos and everything, but the latest, The Yielding Warrior. Tell us a bit about this book. Who is this book for, and what can people learn from it?
Well, we talked about the concept of yielding, and it goes into detail about how to apply that into different areas of your life. But it also teaches you how to start to build an evolving life practice with the meditative arts. And anybody thinking about getting into meditation, I always tell them that it's very important to think about why you want to do the practice, because even while you may have good intentions to want to start taking on a meditative practice, there's going to be a day that comes by where your alarm's going to go off and you're going to hit the snooze button and say, I'll get to it tomorrow. But if you have a good, strong why, maybe you want to watch your grandkids grow up and stay healthy, or you want to be able to overcome stress and anxiety, or you want to improve your performance on the field, or whatever that is for you. If you have a good, strong why as something that pulls you to the practice, it'll help keep you consistent. And so the book teaches you how to lay out a system, find your why, have practices that help build your energy so you have the resources to improve your meditation practice and build an evolving life practice around the meditative arts.
Wonderful. There is much to learn from you, Jeff. And so, a lot of people who would like to learn from you, learn about your Yielding Warrior program, about your book, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, they could go to my website, theyieldingwarrior.com. And if you go to theyieldingwarrior.com/book, you could get a free copy of my book, just pay for shipping and handling. And it's a great way to get introduced to, some of the concepts I'm talking about. Also on that website, you can check out our online training program teaching you how to build an evolving life practice with the meditative arts, as well as our teacher training program for those of you out there that maybe own a yoga studio or a martial arts studio, or maybe you're a life coach and you're looking for another pillar in your business to add to what you're doing.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.